Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Jarna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, U.S. President Donald Trump says Ukraine could win back all of its territory from Russia, marking a major shift from his earlier views, suggesting land concessions. His comments came after his meeting with the Ukrainian president. Zelensky hailed Trump's comments as a big shift. We'll get you all the details on that story on the show today.
Also on World DNA, India slams Pakistan at the UNHRC for carrying out military strikes on civilians in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi accuses Islamabad of bombing its own people while misusing the forum to hurl accusations against New Delhi. We'll bring you the full report on that front as well. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
Do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
U.S. President Donald Trump says NATO nations should shoot down Russian planes violating their territory, avoids directly answering whether he believes President Putin is ready for peace.
It's a big shift.
Big shift. This post of Trump, it's a big shift.
What do you expect from NATO in the next?
Trump says Ukraine could win back all of its territory from Russia, marking a major shift from Trump's earlier views after Trump met with a Ukrainian president. That's when his comments came. Zelensky hails Trump's comments as a big shift.
We had a very good meeting. How did it go? Gaza. It was a very successful meeting with all of the big players, except for Israel, but that's going to be next. And I think we can work something out on Gaza.
Trump says he held a very successful meeting on Gaza with key Arab leaders at the UNGA and expects Israel to join talks soon. Claims he can work something out with Israel on Gaza.
French President Macron says Trump could only win the Nobel Peace Prize if he stops the conflict over Gaza. In an interview in New York, emphasizing the US president is the only person who could do something in the current situation.
Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists and bombing their own people.
India slams Pakistan at UNHRC for military strikes on civilians in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Diplomat Kshitij Tyagi accuses Islamabad of bombing its own people while misusing the forum to hurl accusations against New Delhi.
Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Tehran will not give in to pressure to abandon its enrichment of uranium. In a televised address, calls any talks with the US a dead end that brings no benefit to the country.
South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, tells UN General Assembly he is committed to easing tensions with North Korea. Vows to end hostile acts like propaganda, leaflets, and pledges not to seek regime change.
Hong Kong's weather service issues highest level of typhoon warning as super typhoon Ragasa brings powerful winds and lashing rain to the southern Chinese coast.
U.S. Fed Chair Jerome Powell warns against rushing interest rate cuts, saying it could keep inflation high. He highlights the challenge of balancing inflation control with a softening labor market amid economic uncertainties. In yet another turnaround on the war, U.S. President Donald Trump has said that Ukraine, with the support of the European Union and NATO, could win back all of its territory from Russia.
Trump, who met with his Ukrainian counterpart at the UN, has previously said that Kiev would likely have to cede land to its neighbor. Zelensky hailed Trump's latest comments as a big shift. The Ukrainian president said that they had discussed Russia's stuttering economy and that there was an understanding that Trump would be ready to provide security guarantees to Ukraine when the war is over. He said that Trump had the influence and power to be a game changer for Ukraine in the war, noting also that China retained influence over Russia.
Because we don't see the wishes from the China to finish this war. I don't feel it totally. They are not interested. I don't know why.
World leaders gathered at the UN Security Council for a high-level meeting on Ukraine, where UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of real risk of further expansion of the conflict.
We cannot afford to lose the current diplomatic momentum, as fragile as it might be. The longer this war continues, the more devastating its consequences for everyone. I therefore reiterate my appeal for a full, comprehensive, and sustainable ceasefire.
All right, there's more on this from our correspondent Susan, who sends us this report from New York. Listen in.
In a stunning shift, President Trump now believes that Ukraine is able to win back territory lost to Russia, including Crimea, and pledged a tougher stance against Moscow after meeting with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. He also said that NATO should shoot down Russian aircraft that violates its airspace, a comment that ratcheted up pressure on the alliance and risks a further escalation. Analysts say that the shift could strengthen Kyiv's diplomacy and prompt for faster action, but Europe will have to weigh escalation risks carefully before it decides to change its military posture. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Let's now shift focus to what US President Donald Trump had to say about Iran during his address at the UNGA.
Trump called Iran a global sponsor of terrorism and further added that it was his #1 priority to prevent Iran from possessing nuclear weapons.
It was a scathing speech. Trump first called out the Iranian Supreme Leader for dismissing his proposal to discuss a possible nuclear deal and then went on to accuse the Iranian regime of hostilities towards neighbors, as he took credit for ending the 12-day war between Iran and Israel, in which US itself was involved.
The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests.
Trump doubled down on his attack on Iran, reasserting his claim of the U.S. having totally obliterated the Iranian nuclear enrichment program during Operation Midnight Hammer. Trump even declared that many of Iran's former military commanders are no longer there as a result of the operation.
And 3 months ago, in Operation Midnight Hammer, 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally obliterating everything. No other country on earth could have done what we did. Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead.
Now, there was a response from the Iranian side. Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stated that Iran would not yield to any kind of pressure to abandon its uranium enrichment. Khamenei also stated that entering talks under threats would amount to surrendering to pressure, something no honorable nation would accept.
He further declared that negotiations with the United States are a dead end, reiterating that Iran does not need nuclear weapons and has no intention of producing them. And amid the war of words, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met in New York with European counterparts and EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas to discuss the possible reimposition of nuclear sanctions. No breakthrough has been achieved so far to avert this, and the EU and US continue to hold their suspicion that Iran would acquire nuclear weapons. Well, as close to 150 world leaders descended on Manhattan for the UN General Assembly, the U.S. Secret Service has foiled a massive hidden telecom network across the New York area.
Investigators say the network could have crippled cell towers, jammed 911 calls and flooded networks with chaos at the very moment the city was most vulnerable. The cache, made up of more than 300 SIM servers backed with over 100,000 SIM cards and clustered within 56 kilometers of the United Nations, is one of the most sweeping communications threats uncovered on US soil.
Investigators warn the system could have blacked out cellular service in a city that relies on it, not only for daily life, but for emergency response and counterterrorism. According to the U.S. Secret Service, the network was uncovered as part of a broader Secret Service investigation into telecommunication threats targeting senior government officials. Authorities say the servers spread across multiple sites function like banks of mock cell phones.
The U.S. Secret Service hasn't uncovered a direct plot to disrupt the UN General Assembly. Forensic analysis is still in its early stages, but agents believe nation-state actors, perpetrators from particular countries, used the system to send encrypted messages to organized crime groups, cartels and terrorist organizations.
This was a case that began as a protective intelligence investigation threat case, and we deemed it imminent, and so our advanced threat interdiction unit began working on it from day one. And what they uncovered was a network of telecommunications devices that can be used anonymously and encrypted. They can be used to shut down cell towers. They could be used to not allow access to EMS and 911. And we do know that nation-state threat actors or foreign governments are communicating with criminals in the United States that are known to federal law enforcement.
The hidden electronic maze was so powerful it could have sent an encrypted and anonymous text to every human being in the United States within 12 minutes. Its strength could have overwhelmed cell towers, toppled New York City cell service, and stopped every Manhattan resident from being able to access Google Maps. Investigators say the operation appeared to be built for far more than just masking swatting calls. It was a massive communications exchange for spies, hackers, and organized crime. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report.
The U.S. Secret Service says that it has dismantled a massive telecom threat just as world leaders gathered here in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. Agents uncovered more than 300 SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards across abandoned buildings in the New York region, equipment capable of shutting down cell towers, blocking emergency dispatch, and even texting the entire U.S. population within minutes. Officials linked the well-funded scheme to nation-state actors working with organized crime, cartels, and terrorist groups. The discovery followed threats made earlier this year against U.S. officials, underscoring heightened security around this UN meeting and around New York. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
The U.S. administration has shaken up the H-1B visa program yet again, and this is after announcing a dramatic hike in application fee of $100,000.
The White House has now unveiled a proposal to rewrite the rules for how these visas are handed out. Trump administration is moving away from the random lottery system for H-1B visas. Under a new proposal, applications would be ranked based on skill level and compensation. Currently, any qualified candidate has an unequal chance in the lottery, but the revised system would give an edge to foreign workers with higher salaries and more specialized qualifications.
Registrations would be assigned a wage level, and this way US wants to prioritize high-paying workers in H-1B visas. Wage level 1 applicants will only get 1 entry, while wage level 4 applicants will get 4 entries, giving high-paid individuals a better chance at getting the H-1B visa.
The decisions on H-1B visa represents one of the biggest overhauls of the H-1B program in years, a shift that could hit smaller companies that rely on entry-level H-1B employees. Moving on, tensions are simmering in Ecuador.
Indigenous Ecuadorians are lodging fierce protests over the government's decision to cut back on the diesel subsidy. Nationwide strikes led by the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, the country's largest social organization. They are currently underway. Infuriated agitators are marching en masse to the outskirts of Latacunga, the temporary seat of the national government.
Well, we are here because, unfortunately, the current government does not listen to the cries of the people. They believe that removing a subsidy on diesel is the easiest thing to do, but that is not the case. We are also calling on many transporters, many people who say that it does not affect them, but that is not true.
Defying the state of emergency, enraged protesters block roads, set barricades ablaze to oppose President Daniel Noboa's recent decision to eliminate the $1.1 billion diesel subsidy earlier this month. Many beneficiaries of the diesel subsidy include the heavy transport, passenger vehicle, and agricultural sectors. Removal has driven diesel prices up from $1.8 to $2.8 per gallon. Protesters argue that the measure will significantly raise the overall cost of living.
Everything is going up, the basic food basket is going up, fares are going up, and it's the low-income segment that's most affected.
In certain provinces of Ecuador, protests turned violent as infuriated protesters clashed with police, setting the interior of a police station on fire. Security has been stepped up in several districts. Soldiers can be seen throwing tear gas canisters at demonstrators.
To quell the state of unrest, President Noboa imposed a 60-day state of emergency in 7 provinces. The emergency order suspends freedom of assembly in the affected provinces and authorizes police and military forces to prevent and dismantle public gatherings.
We are now fighting a battle against sectarianism, against the people who want to destabilize Ecuador, and we will not give in.
Chile is heading for presidential elections this November.
But the MAGA political theme seems to have transcended boundaries now. From buildings a border wall to migration and crackdown on crime. Chile's far-right presidential candidate not just taken a page from Trump's playbook, he has substantially mirrored the American president's manifesto.
During a campaign event, Jose Antonio Cast has unveiled his most hardline immigration plan. He has vowed to deport all undocumented migrants if he wins the upcoming election. The 59-year-old lawyer declared that migrants without papers would be put in detention centers and then expelled to their home countries or to the nations through which they entered. Under his crime crackdown plan, foreigners who commit crimes would be locked up in a special prison and then deported after serving their sentences.
An opinion poll showcased neck and neck with Communist Party candidate Janet Jara. If no candidate wins outright, a runoff is set for December 14th. Surveys indicate Kast would be the favorite to win if the battle goes to round 2.
Kast lost the last presidential poll when he was narrowly defeated by incumbent Gabriel Boric in 2021, and this time he is leaning heavily into law and order themes, promising to go to war against organized crime and to build maximum security prisons modeled on El Salvador's notorious terrorist confinement center. He has previously vowed to build a wall along Chile's border with Bolivia.
Nosotros queremos el bien para Chile.
And Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has made his boldest anti-migrant pledge yet.
Farage unveiled plans to stop the poorest wave, as he called it, a reference to the record legal migration to the UK after former Conservative Prime Minister Boris Johnson's 2019 election victory.
Now, the Reform UK leader vowed to scrap indefinite leave to remain in the UK, a long-standing right for migrants in Britain. He called it the end of cheap foreign labour, saying that under a Reform government, welfare would be for British citizens only.
Under present rules, non-British nationals today can apply for indefinite leave to remain, or after 5 years in Britain, it grants them permanent residency and a year later a chance to seek citizenship. Farage wants to end that route completely. Instead, migrants would only get 5-year renewable visas tied to strict criteria. They must never have claimed benefits, must cross higher salary thresholds, and would not be allowed welfare access at all.
Now, under these rules, even those who already hold indefinite leave to remain would lose it. They would have to reapply, apart from EU citizens with settled status who would keep their rights following Brexit agreements. That could affect around 430,000 people who've held ILR for years without becoming citizens. Experts warn that such a move would be unprecedented.
Now, Reform UK says the new rules could save taxpayers over £200 billion. That's about $270 billion. But economists dispute the numbers, arguing most migrants are already barred from claiming benefits and, in fact, contribute more in taxes than they take out.
The Labour government has its own plans to extend the settlement route to 10 years. Conservatives want the same, but Farage is going further, banning dual citizenship altogether, a measure few wealthy nations enforce. Reform's tough immigration pitch could set the stage for one of Britain's fiercest political battles in years. Critics have argued that forcing people to give up their original nationality would damage Britain's ability to attract skilled workers.
Now, Denmark's Copenhagen airport has resumed its operations after a temporary shutdown caused by drone sightings.
According to authorities, the airport resumed operations after a nearly 4-hour shutdown following drone sightings in the area. However, passengers are advised to check with their respective airlines, as delays and some cancellations may continue. In a statement, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called the drone's flights the most serious attack on Danish critical infrastructure and didn't rule out Russian involvement.
She referred to similar drone incidents in Poland and Romania and the violation by Russian fighter jets of Estonia's airspace. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has denied any Russian involvement in the incident.
In any case, I cannot reject in any way that it could be Russia. We have seen drones over Poland that should not have been there. We have seen activity in Romania. We have seen violations of Estonian airspace. We have seen hacker attacks at European airports over the weekend. And now there have been drones in Denmark. And it seems that there have been drones in Oslo and in Norway as well. So therefore, I cannot say anything else than that this is, in my eyes, a serious attack on Danish critical infrastructure.
According to the Danish police, the airport's airspace was closed after 2 to 3 unidentified drones were seen flying in the area. As a result, 50 flights were diverted to alternate airports. Danish police said that drones which shut the country's main airport appeared to have been flown by a capable operator seeking to demonstrate certain abilities, adding that no suspects had been identified.
Hours later, Norway reported a similar incident when a drone was spotted over Oslo Gardermoen Airport. The airport confirmed that flight operations were impacted due to the drone sighting.
Officials also said that Oslo Airport diverted flights late on Monday and shut its airspace due to a drone sighting. According to reports, 2 people were arrested for illegally flying drones in central Oslo. The drone sightings at airports in Copenhagen and Oslo come just days after a Europe-wide cyber attack disrupted flight operations at London's Heathrow, Berlin's Brandenburg and the Brussels airport.
Now, the Baltic states and NATO's eastern flank has come under tremendous pressure since suspected drone incursions by Russia in Polish airspace earlier this month. A similar incident followed in Romania, and Russian MiG-31 fighter jets have also been accused of violating the Estonian airspace, triggering complaints of a dangerous new provocation and a denial from Moscow.
Zniszczenia są poważne, w zasadzie zniszczeniu uległ cały dach tego.
Alright, it's time now for a short break, but this is World DNA. It will continue after that break. Come right back. On the other side, India fires back at Pakistan at the UNHRC, accusing Islamabad of bombing its own people and exploiting the forum to target New Delhi with baseless claims. We'll bring you all the details.
The world's most powerful tropical cyclone of the year, Ragasa, has slammed into Hong Kong and the southern coast of China. We'll get to you all the details on that story on the other side. Keep watching WION World is One.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsa Kumar, and my colleague Shivan Channa. Let's begin with the headlines.
Ryan Ruth found guilty of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump during a golf game in Florida last year. He tries to stab himself with a pen after the verdict was announced, but was stopped by authorities.
Russia's a paper tiger. I don't know what they are, but 3.5 years of fighting and killing everybody, and killing 7,000 people a week.
Donald Trump dismisses Russia as a paper tiger during a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. Rules out Moscow as a serious nuclear force, as it's been fighting aimlessly for over 3 years currently.
Do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
US President Trump says NATO nations should shoot down Russian planes violating their territory. Avoids directly answering whether he believes that Russian President Putin is ready for peace.
French President Macron says Trump could only win Nobel Peace Prize if he stops the conflict over Gaza. In an interview in New York, emphasizes U.S. President is the only person who could do something in current situation.
Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists, and bombing their own people.
India slams Pakistan at the UN HRC for military strikes on civilians in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Diplomat Kshitij Tyagi accuses Islamabad of bombing its own people while misusing the UN HRC forum to hurl accusations against New Delhi.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Tehran will not give in to pressure to abandon its enrichment of uranium. In a televised address, calls any talks with the U.S. a dead end that bring no benefit to the country.
At least 14 people killed in Taiwan after a decades-old lake barrier bursts following heavy rains from Super Typhoon Ragasa. Floodwaters destroy the bridge and sweep through a town in Hualien County.
Wall Street dips after 3 days of AI-driven gains as Fed Chair Powell signals cautious rate cuts. Tech stocks slide, with Nvidia down 2.8%, while investors weigh mixed economic data and uncertain catalysts ahead.
The International Cricket Council suspends USA Cricket's membership after repeated breaches of its obligations. The ban will not stop the United States team for participating in competitions.
India has fired back at Pakistan and the UNHRC, accusing Islamabad of bombing its own people.
India is also accused, of course, has called out Pakistan for exploiting the forum to target New Delhi with baseless claims. Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi did the talking here. He spoke at the 60th session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, called out the Pakistani delegation for its baseless and provocative statements against India. The 2012 batch Indian Foreign Service officer hit out at Islamabad for raking up the Kashmir issue while turning a blind eye to its own people's suffering. The councillor called on Pakistan to vacate Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and return the territory to India, asserting that it is illegally occupied. He further urged Pakistan to focus on fixing its own economy, which he described as being on life support.
Instead of coveting our territory, they would do well to vacate the Indian territory under the illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record stained by persecution. Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists, and bombing their own people.
His strong condemnation followed reports of Pakistani Air Force strike in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Tira Valley, which killed at least 30 civilians, including women and children. Eyewitnesses described scenes of destruction with burned vehicles, collapsed buildings, and bodies being pulled from the rubble.
The Indian diplomat further urged the Council to uphold a mandate that is universal, objective, and non-selective, warning that country-specific mandates risk reinforcing perceptions of bias and selectivity. And in the Indian state of West Bengal, at least 10 people were killed, a majority of them due to waterlogging-related electrocution.
This comes as record rains have hit the city of Kolkata. On Tuesday, Kolkata and its surrounding areas received the highest rainfall in 37 years during a non-stop 6-hour spell between Monday midnight and Tuesday morning. At least 7 died due to accidental electrocution in rain-hit areas of Kolkata, while 2 similar deaths were reported from the adjacent districts of North and South 24 Parganas.
With train and metro railway services disrupted in the city and suburbs, scenes of deluge flooded social media. People were seen wading through the knee to waist deep water at key locations. Long traffic snarls as a result of the waterlogging, which were reported on key roads and several smaller lanes in south and central Kolkata, which were completely cut off due to waist deep water. Water entered residential complexes in the city as well as roads went underwater following the rain that started past midnight on Tuesday.
Now, taking cognizance of the situation, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee announced early Puja holidays for state-run schools and direct colleges and universities to hold online classes. Further, Mamata Banerjee urged political parties not to politicize the crisis, adding that the priority must be relief and safety for the people, and that Kolkata's situation was worsened by inflows from the other states. The Weather Department has forecast heavy rains in the state for the next 24 hours as well. The world's most powerful tropical cyclone of the year has slammed into Hong Kong and the southern coast of China.
And it's, of course, brought life in the region to a grinding halt. Hurricane-force winds exceeding 220 kilometers per hour battered Hong Kong early in the morning today, forcing the city to issue its highest storm warning, that is typhoon signal number 10. Businesses were shut down, over 700 flights were cancelled, residents were rushed to stockpile supplies ahead of the storm's peak, and people across the city took no chances. Windows were taped, sandbags placed outside homes, and shelves cleared at local supermarkets as fears of prolonged shutdowns took hold. Ragasa passed just 100 kilometers south of Hong Kong, bringing torrential rain and 5-meter waves to the coastal districts.
Authorities warn that storm surge and flooding remain a serious threat as water levels continue to rise. Hong Kong's deputy leader has compared the storm to the devastating super typhoons of 2017 and 2018, urging residents to remain indoors until the all clear is given.
In mainland China, over 370,000 people have been evacuated across Guangdong province, where Ragasa is expected to make landfall later tonight between Taishan and Zhanjiang. Cities including Shenzhen, Zhuhai and Dongguan, which have shut schools and businesses, with authorities calling on residents not to venture outside. Emergency shelters have been opened and major airlines have grounded hundreds of flights as the region braces for what officials call one of the most dangerous storms in recent memory.
Meanwhile, in Taiwan, the damage has been devastating. The island was brushed by the southern edge of Ragasa earlier this week, bringing torrential rainfall and deadly landslides. A barrier lake in Hualien County burst after being overwhelmed by floodwaters, sweeping away a bridge and cutting off entire communities. Well, at least 14 people are confirmed dead, 18 injured, and dozens remain missing. Over 7,000 residents have been evacuated so far.
Roads turned into rivers, vehicles were carried away by surging waters, and emergency crews continue round-the-clock efforts to reach the trapped and those who are missing. Super Typhoon Ragasa is named after the Filipino word for scramble. It has left a trail of destruction across multiple countries. As it moves west, the danger is far from over. And at least a dozen passengers have been injured after 4 bogies of the Jafar Express derailed in Pakistan's Balochistan province.
A railway track was blown up with explosive as the train passed over. The incident took place in Balochistan's Mustangs district. Those injured have been taken to the local hospital. Security forces have cordoned off the area and have launched a massive search operation.
Now, so far, no group has taken responsibility for the train attack. Balochistan has seen a series of incidents where militants blow up train tracks targeting the province's transport infrastructure. In the month of July, Jafar Express train derailed in Sindh's Sukur. In the month of June, explosive device was fitted to rail tracks which caused 4 bogies of the Jafar Express to derail in Jacobabad. In another incident involving the same train, which took place in March when the train travelling from Quetta to Peshawar was hijacked by the Baloch militants. Total 21 passengers and 4 security personnel died in the incident.
Now, at a time when countries across the globe are eyeing to leverage the power of artificial intelligence, China has achieved a unique feat with the help of AI.
It has built the world's first AI-generated dam. Built in China's Xinjiang region, the Dashixia Dam is the world's first dam to be built using AI and digital twin technology. The dam has been designed by the state-owned China Energy Engineering Corporation at 247 meters. The dam is equivalent to an 80-story building, making it the world's tallest concrete face rock-filled dam.
Now, according to the Chinese state media, the project uses digital twin, AI, and blockchain technology to overcome seismic and geological challenges. With a total capacity of 750,000 kilowatts, the dam can produce enough energy to power approximately 180,000 American homes for a year.
Alright, there's a unique all-women high-altitude bike expedition which has been flagged off today from Srinagar.
Now, of course, it's from Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir, to the breathtaking Pangong Stolik in Ladakh over the next 9 days. 32 women bikers will cover 1,400 kilometers over tough terrain. Here's more in our next report. Take a look.
It began from Srinagar's historical Lal Chowk, flagged off by the CRPF chief. 32 women bikers set out on a 1,400-kilometer rally. They will ride to altitudes of some 18,000 feet, battle sub-zero temperatures and demanding terrain. A huge test of resilience and determination.
I congratulate all the female bikers who are taking this expedition to Kashmir from Ladakh. They will go from Srinagar to Pangyong Lake and return. I wish them best of luck and I congratulate the people of Kashmir also for showing their support.
The idea was conceived in 2015 and it's getting fulfilled today. We've done 2 expeditions till now. In 2023, we went from Delhi to Jagdalpur and after that we did Srinagar to Kanyakumari, a 10,000 kilometer expedition.
CRPF को represent.
Our motto is Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. We are representing CRPF and we want the girls from Jammu and Kashmir to join the forces. We are sure girls will get inspired by this expedition.
It's a celebration of women power. The group will be back in Srinagar on the 1st of October.
For the first time ever, the female bikers from the Central Reserve Police Force are taking an expedition from Srinagar to Leh. They'll be passing off the highest motorable road, Khardungla, on the bikes. This is for the first time that the female bikers of the CRPF are taking a journey from Srinagar to Ladakh. The main motive of this journey is to inspire the women across the country to basically join the forces and also take these adventurous expeditions. These women have taken the expeditions before from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and other parts of the country, but this is for the first time they'll be riding from Srinagar to Ladakh. With video journalist Firoz, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
Now, skills on migration as much as trade help shape the wealth of nations.
But a Bloomberg report now shows that young talented workers face a conundrum in a world of closing doors. Take a look at this next report for more.
People want to develop their talents and work in economies need minds and hands to grow. But that doesn't mean workers can easily go where the jobs are. University graduates are finding it harder to land a position in a world of closing doors. International trade wars dominate the economic narrative these days. News headlines are full of conflicts over immigration, borders, and the rights of newcomers. U.S. President Donald Trump's $100,000 fee for new H-1B visas is the latest of those headlines. The world's largest and most powerful economies are raising the barricades. What often gets lost is the essential role of people in driving prosperity. The Economist's shorthand prescription: have a growing population, educate those people well, and put them where they can make the most of their abilities. But globalization hasn't worked for everyone in the recent decades. In developed countries, trade has hollowed out manufacturing work in many communities. A rising cost of living has left more people feeling stuck. But history has shown that countries that can effectively invest their demographic dividends do better in the aggregate. That is irrespective of the fact whether the talent is homegrown or imported. The math is getting tougher, though. The rapid aging means the population of China, Japan, and South Korea are shrinking. The European Union is set to begin declining soon. The US is not far behind. Almost all population growth today is happening in the countries in the developing world. These countries need to rapidly find ways to either accommodate their young people or find a place for them abroad. In 2023, more babies were born in already youth-skewed India. That is more than the people of all ages living in Florida. And according to estimates, 1 out of every 5 working-age people on Earth will be Indian by 2030. Then there's Africa. The 7.5 million births in Nigeria alone exceeded those in all of Europe and were double the number born in the US in 2023. In the long run, migration has been the answer to imbalances in population and economic development. But politics and rising geopolitical tensions are pushing the other way. Trump and other world leaders are not only blocking new migrants but also deporting existing ones. Some graduates are already calling it quits amid the chaos and uncertainty in immigration policies around the world. Student departures globally reached a decade high in May. That pushed visa exits to their highest levels since the pandemic. But for now, the chaos driven by Trump's policy seems to reverberate around the world, especially for those foreigners seeking better prospects in the US. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One.
Well, a mythology-based festival in Croatia's Turopolje has captivated its attendees.
Both young and old, the festival is reviving the fading folklores for them. Older visitors are keen to see the demon that they feared when they were children. For the last 10 years, the event has celebrated the spooky and the scary. Take a look at this report for more. and 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal has become the latest victim of AI scam.
He wasn't duped himself, but has warned fans about fake AI-generated videos using his voice and image to push investment advice. Now, taking to social media platform X, he said, I quote here, "My team and I have identified fake videos circulating on certain platforms created with artificial intelligence where someone appears to look and sound just like me. These videos promote investment tips or offers that do not come from me. They are part of a misleading advertising scheme. Please be cautious."
Now, scamsters using sports persons' images to defraud people is not new. Last year, Indian cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar's deepfake video was used to promote an online betting app. And in Argentina, 9-time Ballon d'Or winner and World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi had his morphed videos used to promote a Ponzi scheme.
Bill Nye, popularly known as the Science Guy, has received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
His Emmy-winning show titled Bill Nye, the Science Guy aired from 1993 to 1999. Take a look at this report for more.
For me, being a permanent part of all this, of Hollywood, is quite an honor. Thank you. And as been said many times, when you're in love, you want to tell the world. And I love science. I love comedy. I love television.
All right, with that, we caught a wrap to World DNA for today. Before we go, here is a look at all the climate stories that are making headlines across the world. Do stay tuned, news and updates follow on the other side. Keep watching WION World is Fun.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ
किसी के लिए ये विचार कट्टर है, तो किसी के लिए यही भारत की आत्मा है। किसी के लिए ये विद्रोह है, तो किसी के लिए राष्ट्र निर्माण के सिद्धांत।
तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये अपना हिंदू समाज,
ये सिर्फ संगठन नहीं,
अब इसको संगठित करना चाहिए।
100 बरस की तपस्या है।
हमारा संगठन तो एक अभेद्य किला है। इसके दीवारों पर चंचु प्रहार करने वालों की चोचें वही टूट कर गिर जाएगी।
एक चिंगारी से वट वृक्ष। देखिए सदी का संग्राम आरएसएस की शताब्दी पर धारणाओं को चुनौती देने जल्द आ रहा है। केसरिया at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ। किसी के लिए ये विचार कट्टर है, तो किसी के लिए यही भारत की आत्मा है। किसी के लिए ये विद्रोह है, तो किसी के लिए राष्ट्र निर्माण के सिद्धांत।
तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये अपना हिंदू समाज,
ये सिर्फ संगठन नहीं,
अब इसको संगठित करना चाहिए।
100 बरस की तपस्या है।
हमारा संगठन तो एक अभेद्य किला है। इसके दीवारों पर चंचु प्रहार करने वालों की चोचें वही टूट कर गिर जाएगी।
एक चिंगारी से वट वृक्ष। देखिए सदी का संग्राम आरएसएस की शताब्दी पर धारणाओं को चुनौती देने जल्द आ रहा है। केसरिया at 100.
Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One with me, Raisha Sehgal, and this is Speed News. Lots of for you on the show. Let's get you started. US President Donald Trump has urged NATO to take a firmer stance by shooting down Russian jets violating Allied airspace, following recent breaches reported by Poland, Romania and Estonia. Claims that Russia denies. The escalating incidents have heightened NATO members' anxieties, with Poland's president affirming readiness to defend its borders. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who also met with Trump, highlighted their agreement on the urgency of cutting Russia's energy revenues, pointing to accelerated EU plans to halt fossil fuel imports from Moscow in a bid to weaken Kremlin's war efforts. Hamas has denied US President Donald Trump's claim that it is blocking efforts to reach a ceasefire in Gaza, instead blaming Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for obstructing peace talks. Trump accused Hamas of refusing to release hostages, while Hamas proposed a 60-day ceasefire in exchange for the immediate release of half the hostages. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has not received the reported Hamas letter about a hostage deal and would not consider it even if it had. During his address at the 80th United Nations General Assembly, US President Donald Trump called Iran a global sponsor of terror and emphasized that preventing Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons was his top priority. Trump criticized the Iranian Supreme Leader for rejecting his proposal to discuss a potential nuclear deal. Trump also took credit for brokering an end to the 12-day conflict between Iran and Israel. In response to all this, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei declared that Iran would not yield to pressure to stop uranium enrichment, stating that negotiating under threats was equal to surrender, which no honorable nation would accept. At the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York, US President Donald Trump launched a tirade against the UN, criticizing the organization for failing to live up to its potential. In a lengthy speech lasting 55 minutes, Trump also shared personal issues, recalling a malfunctioning escalator and a defective teleprompter during his visit. Now, despite the extended critique proposed by Trump, the US president did not offer concrete solutions, focusing instead on expressing his dissatisfaction with the global body. A man charged with attempting to assassinate US President Donald Trump at his Florida golf course during last year's presidential campaign has been convicted by a federal jury on all counts. Rand Routh faces life in prison with sentencing set for December 18th. Trump has praised Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department prosecutors for securing the conviction, calling Routh an evil man with an evil intention. Routh was arrested last September after a Secret Service agent spotted a rifle barrel protruding from the bushes at Trump's West Palm Beach golf course. A new statue appeared near the U.S. Capitol depicting President Donald Trump holding hands with late financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted of sex offenses. The 12-foot installation quickly drew a crowd of onlookers, snapping pictures and videos created by an anonymous art collective known as The Secret Handshake. The sculpture aims to highlight the controversial ties between Trump and Epstein. Meanwhile, Trump is embroiled in a lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for an article linking him to Epstein, a case critics say threatens free speech. Epstein died by suicide in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. At the 60th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi sharply accused Islamabad of bombing its own people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Tirha Valley, where a recent airstrike killed at least 30 civilians, including